I'm going to try this for starters. We're going to be reading Xenophon's Agesilaus, and I'm going to be starting from the beginning, and we're going to see how far we get. And so I'm going to start with English, and then Greek, and try to go back and forth like this. So we got, I know how difficult it is to write an appreciation of Agesilaus that shall be worthy of his virtue and glory. Nevertheless, the attempt must be made, for it would not be seemly that a good man, just because of his perfection, should receive no tribute of praise, however inadequate. Either men otitis agesilau aratis tekedoxis uradion axion epinon grapsa, almost the en kiritaon. Ugar on kolosechi, ioti teleosanir agathosagenoto, viatuto uthe mionon tihani epenon. Now concerning his high birth, what greater and nobler could be said than this, that even today the line of his descent from Heracles is traced through the roll of his ancestors, and those no simple citizens, but kings and sons of kings. Perimen un Evgenias of two, Tian tis mizon kikalion e ipin ehi, ioti etikenin tis progonis, onomazomenis, apo mnemonevete, apostos af Irakleus geneto, ke tutis uk idiotes al ek Vasileon Vasilevsin. Now are they open to the reproach that though they were kings, they ruled over a petty state. On the contrary, as their family is honored above all their fatherland, so is their state glorious above all in Greece. Thus, they are not first in the second rank, but leaders in a community of leaders. Alamin uthe tafti gan tis echi katamemsistha tus os Vasilevusin men poleos the tis epitikusis al os bertoganos of tone tis patrivos and demotaton uto ke ipolis entialada en doxo tati. Os de of teron pro tevusin al igemonon igemonevusi. On one account, his fatherland and his family are worthy to be praised together, for never at any time has the state been moved by jealousy of their preeminence to attempt the overthrow of their government, and never at any time have the kings striven to obtain greater powers than they were conferred on them originally at their succession to the throne. For this reason, while no other government, democracy, oligarchy, despotism, or kingdom can lay claim to an unbroken existence, this kingdom alone stands fast continually. Ti the gamin ke kiniaxion epenesta signomi epenesta tin te petrida ke togenos of two. Itegar polis, u the popotef thonisus the, tu protetis meets the tus epe hirisa, catalisa tinarchin of tone. Ida Vasilis, u the popotem zonon orexthison, ef isper ex archis tin Vasilian por elevon. Tigar un, Ali men udamia archi fanarasti, the ageganimeni, a the aspastos, uthe democrati, uthe ola Garhia, uthe tyrannis, ute Vasilia. Aftimoni Viameni, Sinachis Vasilia. However, there are not wanting signs that even before his reign began Agesilaus. There are not wanting signs that even before his reign began Agesilaus. Okay, I think this is a typo. Before his reign, Agesilaus was deemed worthy to be king. For on the death of King Agis, there was a struggle for the throne between Leotychidas as the son of Agis and Agesilaus, the son of Archidamus. The state decided in favor of Agesilaus, judging him to be the more eligible in point of birth and character alike. Surely to have been pronounced worthy of the highest privilege by the best men in the mightiest state is proof sufficient of his virtue, at least before he began to reign. Os damin, que prin arxa, axios tis Vasilius voxi, ina Agesilaus, tada simia, epigar agis, Vasilevs own, eteleftisen, erisandon, peritis archis Leotychida, men, os agidos ondos iu, Agesilau the os archidamu chrinista ipolis an epiclitoteronina Agesilaon ke to geni ke ti aretituton estisito Vasilea. Ketito enticratisti poli ipoton oriston crithenda tu kaliu geros axiothina pion eti te mirion pros vita quisque prin arxefton oratis. I will now give an account of the achievements of his reign, for I believe that his deeds will throw the clearest light on his qualities. Osa gamin in ti Vasilia via proxito, nin ivi vigisime, apoverton ergon, cetus tropos aptu, calista nomizo, cata vilus assista. Now Agesilaus was still a young man when he gained the throne. He had been but a short time in power when the news leaked out that the king of the Persians was assembling a great navy and army for the attack on the Greeks. While the Lacedaemonians and their allies were considering the matter, Agesilaus declared that if they would give him 30 Spartans, 2,000 newly enrolled citizens, and a contingent of 6,000 allies, he would cross to Asia and try to effect a peace. Or, in case of the barbarian would want to fight, would keep him so busy that he would have no time for an attack on the Greeks. His eagerness to pay back the Persian in his own coin for the former invasion of Greece, his determination to wage an offensive rather than a defensive war, and his wish to make the enemy pay for it rather than the Greeks, were enough to arouse an immediate and widespread enthusiasm for his project. But what appealed most to the imagination was the idea of entering on a struggle not to save Greece, but to subdue Asia. Agesilaus tinin eti men neoson etika tis Vasilius arti veondos iu entiarchi ex ingelthi Vasilevs o person a thrizon ke naftikon ke pezon poli stratigma o sepielinas vulevomenon the perituton lacedaemonion ke ton simachum Agesilaus ibesti and those sinafto triacunda men spartion Viscilius de neodamodes, is Exequilius de syntagmaton simachon, via visas de istin asian, que pirasas de irinin piisa. Eon polamin vulite, ovarvaros, ascolion of to porexian, stratevin, epituselinas, ephthes men un poli pani igastisan, afto tuto to epithemisa, epivi opersis prosten epitinalada dievi. Andi the avina, epopton. To te erista epionde malon, ipomenon de macasafto, ke to ta kinu the panonda, vulis the malon ita tonalidon polamin. Kaliston the pondon acrinato, to mi peritis alados, ala peritis asias tonagona, cadistana. And what of the strategy? After he had received the army and sailed out, a simple narrative of his actions will assuredly convey the clearest impression of it. This, then, was the first act in Asia. Tissaphernes had sworn the following oath to Agesilaus: "If you will arrange an armistice to last until the return of the messengers, whom I will send to the king, I will do my utmost to obtain independence for the Greek cities in Asia." And Agesilaus, on his part, had sworn to observe the armistice honestly, allowing 3 months for the transaction. Epigamin lavon to stratigma ex eplevsa, pos on tisa festeron epivixian, os estrategisen, afta diagiseto a eproxen, en tinin tiasia either proti praxis geneto. Tissaphernes met almosen Agesilao. Spiceto eos elthian, us pempsia pros Vasilea angelus, dia praxis of to Athena, autonomus tas entiasia polis Elenidas. Agesilaus there, andomos espondas, axin adolos, ori samenos tis praxios tris minas. What followed? Tissaphernes forthwith broke his oath, and instead of arranging a peace, applied to the king for a large army in addition to that which he had before. As for Agesilaus, though well aware of this, he nonetheless continued to keep the armistice. I think, therefore, that here we have the first noble achievement. By showing up Tissaphernes as a perjurer, he made him distrusted everywhere, and contrariwise, by proving him to be a man of his word and true to his agreements, he encouraged all Greeks and barbarians alike to enter into an agreement with him wherever he wished it. Omen Tissaphernes, almosen ephes epsepsato, andigar to irini pratin, stratum poli para Vasileus proso prosteniche met pempeto. Agesilaus de que per istomenos tafta almost anemina tespondes, mi un tuto proton colon loci, diapraxis oti tisa fernis men emphanisis epiorcon apiston passin epiisen. Afton the ande pi vixus proton men orcus empezuda epita synthicus mipsithomenos pandas epiisa caelinas cavorvarus thorundas synthethus theopto et vulito. The arrival of the new army emboldened Tissaphernes to send an ultimatum to Agesilaus, threatening war unless he withdrew from Asia. And the allies and the Lacedaemonians present made no concealment of their challenge, believing that the strength of Agesilaus was weaker than the Persian king's armament. But Agesilaus, with a beaming face, bade the envoys of Tissaphernes inform their master that he was profoundly grateful to him for his perjury, by which he had gained the hostility of the gods for himself and had made them allies of the Greeks. Without a moment's delay, he gave the word to his troops to pack up in preparation for a campaign and warned the cities that lay on the line of the march to Caria to have their markets ready stocked. He advised by letter the Greeks of Ionia and Iolid and the Hellespont to send their contingents for the campaign to the headquarters of Ephesus. Epi the megaphronesis, o Tissaphernes, epitokatavandi stratevmati proipen, Agesilao polemon, mi apii ectisasias, men alisimaki, kelakadamonion, porondis mala achthes thendes phaneri agenondo. No misandes miona tin paruson dinamin Agesilao tis vasilaos paraskevis ina. Agesilaos the mala phedro to prosopo, apengila to Tissapherni tus presvis akelevsa, ospolin harinav to echi, oti epiorchisus avton, men polemius tus theus ectisato, tis the elisi simachus episen, ec the tutu, epthis tis men stratiotes par ingile sis gevasas the osi stratian. Tes the policine is as nanki in aphicthina strativomeno epicarion proipen agoran paraskevazin. Epestila the keio si ke eolevsi ke elispondiis pempin prosoptonis ephason tus street Sistratevsomenus. Now Tissaphernes reflected that Agesilaus was without cavalry, while Caria was a difficult country for mounted men, and he thought that Agesilaus was wroth with him on account of his deceit, concluding before that his estate in Caria was the real object of the coming attack. He sent the whole of his infantry across to that district and took his cavalry round to the plain of the Meander, confident that he could ride down to the Greeks before they reached the country where cavalry could not operate. But instead of marching on Caria, Agesilaus forthwith turned around and made for Phrygia, picking up the various forces that met him on the route, he proceeded to reduce the cities and captured a vast quantity of booty by sudden attacks. Omen Tithophernes, K ot ipikon uk ichen o Agesilaus, Idakaria aphiposin, K ot gito avton or gisista avto, Diatin apatin, to ondi nomises, epiton of tuikon iskarian, or mesin avton, tomen pezon apon diavivasen ekista. To the epikon isto me anthropethion periiga genomizon ikanon katapatisa ti ipot Elinas tus Elinas prin ista disipa afficesta. O the Agesilaus on D2 epicarian iena feast on D strepsus epifrigias eporevato. Ketasta antiparia alpandosus dinamis analamvanon ega. Ketas polis catastrephato ke embalon aprostokitos pomplithi cremata eleven. This achievement also was thought to be proof of sound generalship, that when war was declared and cozen in consequence became righteous and fair dealing, he showed Tithophernes to be a child at deception. It was thought, too, that he made shrewd use of this occasion to enrich his friendships. Strategikon ke tuto ethoki via praxista oti epi polemos pro erithi keto exa patan osion te ke vikeon exa kinu aganato peva apevixaton tisophernin tiapati phronimos the ketus filus and davtha Adoxa plutisa. For the accumulation of plunder was so great that things were selling for next to nothing. So he gave his friends the word to buy, saying that he was shortly going to go down to the coast with his army. The auctioneers were ordered to have a schedule made for the prices obtained and to give delivery of the goods. Thus, without capital outlay and without any loss of the treasury, all his friends made a prodigious amount of money. Further, whenever deserters offered to give information where plunder might be taken, they naturally went to the king. In such a case, he took care that the capture should be effected by his friends, so that they might at one and the same time make money and add to their laurels the immediate result that was that he had made ardent suitors for his friendship. Epigar diato pola cremata iliphthe andi precata panda epolito tis men filis proipen onista ipon oticata visito epithalaton entaki to stratama catagon tus the la phiropolas Ekelevse graphomenes, oposu ti priendo proiesta ta crimato. Oste uden pro telessandes e filiov tu, udeto demotion vlapsandes pandes pamplithi crimato elevon. Eti the opote aftomoli os ecos pros Vasilia iondes crimata thelian Iphigista, Ketafta epimelito, ostiaton philon aliskito, opos amamen crematizinto, ama that endoxoteri gignindo, diamen the tafta ephthes palus erastas, tis tu filias epiisato. Recognizing that a country plundered and depopulated could not long support an army, whereas an inhabited and cultivated land would yield inexhaustible supplies, he took pains not only to crush his enemies by force, but also to win them over by gentleness. He would often warn his men not to punish their prisoners as criminals, but to guard them as human beings. And often when shifting camps, if he noticed little children, the property of merchants, left behind, many merchants offered children for sale because they thought they would not be able to carry and feed them. He looked after them too and had them conveyed to some place for refuge. Gignoskon the oti men por thrumeni ke erimumeni hura uk on dineto polin chronon stratum aferin ida ecumeni men spiro meni ke aenon antin trophin parechi epimelito umonon tu via qui rusta tus enantius alake tu praotiti prosagista ke polakis men pro igorevati stratiotus tus aliscomenus mi os adicus timorista all os anthropus ondas philatin. Polakis de opote meta stratopethev ito esthito catalelimena pedaria micra emboron apoli empolun diatonomizin mi vinista an ferin afta ke trefin epimelito ke tuton opos sin comizindo p. And that is the end of Agesilaus chapter 1, section 21. That is where I am stopping for now, and I will continue on at another time. Thank you for watching, and now I gotta figure out where my off button is. Thank you.